I want to take this moment to share something very personal with you. Over the past year and a half, I've been doing some healing and self-reflective work. And through this work, I've had the revelation that I identify as non-binary. With that said, I'll officially be changing my pronouns to they, them. I feel that this best represents the fluidity I feel in my gender expression and allows me to feel most authentic and true to the person I both know I am and still am discovering.
By the way, it's a joke, the whole binary thing. I don't care what Demi Lovato does, but now we have to worry about you might offend someone. So I basically offended right-wing people, and today I offended left-wing people. Well, I hope you're happy, because I just stopped talking. Matty out.
You know, if you want Matt Siegel, if you're going to pay him a lot of money to go on the air and say stuff like that, well, you got to have his back. But now they don't. Maybe he's finally at the point where he says, screw it, I'm walking.
And it could be that he's done 40 years, he's got plenty of money, he's sick of it, and he's going to make a dramatic exit. And I would respect that.
Holy hell, what the hell happened to today's schedule? Oh, my God. It has just been nonstop. A few hours ago, we were sitting down. I was writing a Substack on a topic I can't even remember when Alice told me that Matt Siegel had been whacked. Or had walked off the air after being badgered by a PD or some kind of management in there about saying something that wasn't laudatory about the trans person, Demi Lovato, who's got a thing, who's got stuff going on.
I want to take this moment to share something very personal with you. Over the past year and a half, I've been doing some healing and self-reflective work. And through this work, I've had the revelation that I identify as non-binary. With that said, I'll officially be changing my pronouns to they, them. I feel that this best represents the fluidity I feel in my gender expression and allows me to feel most authentic and true to the person I both know I am and still am discovering.
Right.
In this first episode,
this is
I'm
a person who has done everything she can since I've known about her in the last year to try to be interesting. And this is the latest version of this, latest incarnation of Demi's interesting. Is now she's they, them, whatever.
Well, props to her. This is good promotion for her. Or sorry, props to them.
Right.
This is good promotion for their new podcast.
Right. Shockingly, it comes on the heels of her debut podcast. She was attacking a frozen yogurt place last month because they had fat-free options or whatever, and she's had eating disorders. If there's something interesting and victimy, she's got it. So that's where we are today. That's fine. This morning, we were talking about that today on the Baron Barrel as a straight-up topic.
Right.
Then, through social media, Alice found that Matt Siegel had talked about it in a lighthearted way and had walked off the air, and there was just music playing back to back to back to back to back.
Right. For the last hour of the show, it was just music.
On Kiss 108. So let me tell you what's going to happen here. In a moment, we're going to go to Gerry Callahan and Kirk Minihane. And for most of you guys absolutely know who they are. A lot of you came to us through those guys. Some of you may not. So what you should know is this.
Well, first of all, I want to backtrack a tiny bit, too, because possibly many of our listeners don't know who Matty in the Morning is. If you're not from the Boston area, this may seem like a local story or not a big deal or whatever. Many of you may know who Matty in the Morning is if you're local people who listen to Kirk and Callahan previously, and that's why you're fans of us. But if you're not from the Boston area, Matty in the Morning is an institution. This guy has been the biggest radio show in Boston for 40 years. So that's older than me. When I grew up, everybody listened to Matty in the Morning. He has the morning show on the top 40 station, the big station that's always number one in the market. And I mean, everybody in New England knows who Matty in the Morning is. Mm-hmm. Everybody has listened to this, has heard it. I have never really been personally a big listener of it, and I still know what the show is, and if something happens on it, we hear about it. This is huge. This is Billy Costa's show that he's on.
They won't know who that is either.
But this is another huge local guy who became big through this show, who's on every local TV show. I mean, these are, in New England, in the Boston area, these are like the biggest names in local media. So the fact that
they slant women. I think the men are probably these
more
are
sports
some
radio
of the bigger
people.
names. But this is very typical morning zoo.
Yeah.
So this is morning zoo radio where there's an ensemble. It's Matty in the Morning. It's Billy, and it's a woman. I also don't know if I have ever listened to it, but
certainly you've been exposed to it,
of
like
course,
at the dentist office and whatever.
You can't miss it. Oh, we don't talk about the dentist, Alice. bad memories.
Sorry.
I almost visited that with Kirk today. But and in the 80s, he had been on TV a lot too, which you wouldn't have remembered. He was on maybe a UHF station, whatever.
Somebody said he came from BCN too.
I guess. Okay, everybody
so,
did.
I mean, I don't know, but I guess the point is, if he's really gone over Demi Lovato's pronouns, whether or not it's because the station doesn't want to deal with it anymore or because he doesn't want to deal with the station bugging him about it anymore, it's unclear whether he said in an interview to Boston.com today, apparently, that he thinks he's going to be back on the station at some point. He didn't specify whether that's tomorrow or at some point in the future or what. It's unclear exactly what is the ultimate outcome of this is going to be, but if he's gone, if the biggest radio host in Boston for 40 years is gone because he's 71 years old because he couldn't wrap his brain around a pop star using they, them pronouns, that is probably the biggest thing to happen in Boston media this month.
Absolutely, and we'll kind of discuss that in a bit afterwards, after we heard from Gerry and Kirk. But that allows, so those of you who haven't already hit the forward 30-second button 150 times, if you don't know who Kirk Minihane and Gerry Callahan are, Gerry Callahan and Kirk Minihane had the Kirk and Callahan show in Boston, sports radio. It was the biggest morning radio show, the best morning radio show, local show that this city has ever had. They were ballsy. They were afraid to ask no questions. They were absolutely fearless. They went after institutions they thought were being dishonorable or were screwing around with fans. For instance, they went after the Red Sox. They were on the flagship station of the Red Sox and still went after the team. And these guys were fearless. It was great radio. Kirk was often over the top, fearless, left it all out there. And Gerry was just a really strong, tough voice as well. These guys, they were the best, okay? So, but they opined on the trans issue about 5 years ago, and a local activist was very upset and decided to make it his life's work to destroy them, go after their sponsors, harass them, and to work with the Globe, with Shirley Luong of the Globe, to try to harass sponsors and shame sponsors so that they left them. Eventually, because the station, for other reasons we won't get into, wanted no part of it, and eventually that show was disappeared. And so those guys know how this works, and they know what it's like when the program director or the executive producer, slinks into the control room or into the on-air studio during a commercial and makes demands. So they know how this whole world works. How this happened today is I got Gerry through a Zoom meeting, and for the first few minutes is Gerry, and then Kirk joins us a few minutes into it. We talk certainly about this Matty in the morning stuff. For those of you in the Minihan or Callahan worlds, there is some other inside baseball talk as well, a little Callahan talk and some other stuff. You'll like it. If you're into those guys, you'll like what they do. I essentially, which you'll be pleased at because I'd hear it from you if I didn't.
Kirk's golf career. I essentially let the guys talk because I know that's what you'd want. And on this subject as well, these are the people who you want to hear from. They are the most. I can't think of anybody more qualified than these guys. They're always very generous to join us. By the way, you should be listening to Kirk Minihane's podcast, his true crime podcast called The Case. And obviously the Kirk Minihane Show. Look him up. He's with Barstool. If you don't already know him, I'm sure you do. And Gerry is the Gerry Callahan podcast. You can find him all over the place as well. And we'll tweet all that stuff out. It'll be in the show notes. All right. Without making you wait any longer, not that you have, let's get right to it. Here comes Gerry first, and Kirk will join us in a couple of minutes. All right, here with Gerry Callahan of the Gerry Callahan podcast. I join Gerry every Tuesday, but the podcast is 4 days a week. It is a great podcast, and he says what he wants to say because in this world, the podcast world, you're allowed to do that for right now. We may be joined by Kirk Minihane. Of course, Gerry and Kirk were hosted the Kirk and Callahan morning show, probably the best morning show ever in Boston on WEEI before the woke forces came and drove them asunder. So, Gerry, all we know now is that Matt Siegel this morning was ranting about Demi Lovato.
who put out an announcement about her new gender binary, whatever.
I want to take this moment.
Oh, sorry. I'm going to play it for us in a second here. This is Demi Lovato this morning.
I want to take this moment to share something very personal with you. Over the past year and a half, I've been doing some healing and self-reflective work. And through this work, I've had the revelation that I identify as non-binary. With that said, I'll officially be changing my pronouns to they, them. I feel that this best represents the fluidity I feel in my gender expression and allows me to feel most authentic and true to the person I both know I am and still am discovering. In this first episode, I'm excited to share with you.
So you get it. So she's having we've heard this.
It is. I'm listening, and she speaks very clearly. Obviously, she's got a great voice, but it is so confusing. I just read the story before coming on with you, and they're not just messing with gender here, which is one thing, that's your personal business, but they're messing with language. And I can't read a story without getting stuck, because it's they, she's they, and they's plural. I mean, you just decided you are plural. That's what you did. If you came up with a different pronoun that was singular, it wouldn't be so difficult. But reading about her new epiphany or transition to this plural status, this binary status, is kind of hard to do. It's kind of hard to get through the words without getting stuck and go, who's they? What do you mean they? Oh, you. Oh, that's right. No, that's not they. You're singular. I'm sorry, but we should have a rule here. You can be whatever you want, but you can't be plural. How's that?
Right, but that wouldn't be uncomfortable for you and me, Gerry. And the whole activity, the whole exercise is to make us uncomfortable and to dislodge our norms and any institution, including language we have, because you and I need to start from a blank slate, because essentially we're white supremacists. And that's the rules, and we're not allowed to talk about it. We're not allowed to do anything but cheerlead it, Gerry,
That's true.
As you and your former radio partner found out a way to personally a couple of years ago. So that happens. Matty in the Morning plays this. Matt Siegel in Boston is Kiss 108's guy forever. He's been a morning ratings giant for 40 years now, and he one of the last ones. After Kirk and Callahan gets torpedoes, it's really Matt Siegel and Howie Carr now, Gerry. You'd agree with that, right?
Yeah, I would say, and now it's, I guess it's just Howie Carr, and he'll be next. I'm not really sure how he's managed to survive this long, but, the mob will eventually come for all of us, if you have any opinions at all, if you have any personality at all. As Matty Siegel points out, he's in a morning show that actually has an opinion, actually has a personality, is not always living in fear, is not always playing scared, which is what everybody's doing on most stations now. On my old station, everybody's playing scared. Everybody is nervous. Before they even say anything, they're wondering, will this get me canceled? Will this get me fired, suspended, whatever? That's the way they operate, which basically emasculates a talk show host and kind of ruins them. I mean, you can't live that way. You can't be that way. You know that. You can't have in the back of your mind that little censor that says you can't discuss that, whatever, transgender issues. You can't discuss, mail-in balloting. You can't discuss, Kyle Rittenhouse, or boom, you're done. You're going to get canceled. That's the way it is now. And there's nothing, as you know, more radioactive than transgender issues, because while the majority of people don't want to see, women, girls' sports destroyed by biological males, you can't say that, because they are a very strong special interest. The minority, if you ever want to understand the tyranny of the minority, check out the way things are unfolding on this issue, transgender issues, and I would lump this in. You can't be critical at all. You literally, on Twitter, can't say men can't have babies. You can't say that, or you'll get canceled, get taken off Twitter for saying men don't have babies.
Well, but the thing is that it's not even, there's no discussion, Gerry, except complete compliant discussion.
Correct.
or laudatory. That is it. It's freaking crazy. I don't know any other subject other than this where this is like this.
Right. There is none. There is none where there's so few people who are promoting, advancing this cause, having biological males dominate girls' sports or whatever. You name the transgender issue. And if you say you're against it, you're a hater, you're a bigot, you're a transphobe. And once they label you, you're playing defense, you're backing up. And I think this Matty Siegel is a perfect example. I mean, he discusses the issues. This is an issue you should discuss if you're Matty Siegel on Kiss 108. Demi Lovato has decided she's non-binary and changed her pronouns. And if you don't, as you point out, completely capitulate, completely say it's wonderful, they're wonderful, they're a great singer. It's obviously confusing and bizarre. But if you don't completely join the mob, you will be targeted. You will be next. And I'm not sure who's next, but they can bring down Matty. They can bring down anybody. Let's be honest. So
what is it? What do you feel like? Supposedly, what happened? And we'll play Matty's rant. Supposedly, what happened is the PD lurked outside of the studio and said, "Hey guys, we're really not comfortable with this."
Let me tell you, Shattuck, I know that dynamic well, where they come in at the break and they get the hagdog look and say, "Can you please just move on?" For us, for Minihan and me, it was always, the Red Sox won last night. Can't you, the Celtics are in the playoffs. Can't you just talk about that instead of, oh my God, look, all the lines are lit. The buzz is out there. We got lots of people listening. People talking about it. What we're doing is working. But I had this phone call and it was from this activist and this group, and they're threatening to. Can you please? The Celtics are playing tonight. Can you please just talk about the Celtics? That was our life for a couple of years. I understand completely what happened to Matty today because it happened to us many, many times. I didn't walk off or quit, but generally. That pressure was, a daily issue we had to deal with.
Yeah, but you have the PD or the executive producer say, okay, we've got an activist on the phone and he's very upset. Well, who gives a bleep? Jerry Williams had people mad at him. Howie Carr has people mad at him. The people being pissed off at radio hosts is not something new.
Yes, it is, because they have you're right. It's not something new, but it's different because of the Twitter mob. Social media, as I pointed out many times when I started, we'd piss people off, and we were much, much more offensive 20, 25 years ago, especially when it came to these things, these social issues. But you get a letter, you get a letter or two.
Right.
Now, one person, and I know this better than anyone, can start an email campaign, even if he's operating alone, or with the help of, the activists. The headquarters of the woke mob is the Boston Globe, which is not a newspaper, as I point out many times. And, with the help of the Globe, they can scare up a mob like that. In the old days, you couldn't do that. And now you could get an email or Twitter campaign to bombard a weak program director or a weak GM and change everything. One or two guys can change everything.
So we're saying.
So we are joined by Kirk Minihane, obviously of the Kirk Minihane Show on Barstool, and The Case, which is blowing up the world as a true crime podcast. And I'm interrupting The Case right now for this, Kirk. I appreciate this. You jumping on here.
It's the first time I think I've been on the air. Am I on with Gerry right now?
Yes. Do you see him? He's over there.
I don't see him, Tom. I see you.
Can you? He's giving you double finger right now.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, yeah. You remember what I look like?
Yeah, I haven't seen you I was just talking to you yesterday.
That's true, but we don't talk on the air anymore. We just talk off the air.
That's true. Well, I stopped working with they. What year was that, Gerry?
We worked with. I worked with they. I don't know, a couple of years. Been a couple of years. What have you been doing since?
So I heard Matty's. I would not call that. If a 10 is a great rant, I would give that a 6 or 7.
Okay, so let's play this, just the last part of Matty's rant here, so people can hear it.
The Jonas Brothers are going to be, but I can't do what I really want to do, which is just be a funny comic who tells it like it is about what he's thinking. So I'm ending my portion of the radio show right now, and I don't know if I'll do it. I really don't. I just want to say that I love my listeners. I'm going to cry, actually. of a run, but I think it's coming to an end. And Bill and Lisa and Bex, Dom, I hate putting you in this position, but I was told by my boss I cannot talk about what I want to talk about. And by the way, it's a joke, the whole binary thing. I don't care what Demi Lovato does, but now we have to worry about you might offend someone. So I basically offended right-wing people, and today I offended left-wing people. So basically what they want me to do is to be, a lightweight show. We have that in the market. We have Magic. We have Knicks. We have radio stations that don't offend anybody. This was the Matty in the Morning Show, the #1 radio show in the history of Boston radio, okay? Bigger than Jeff Kane and Dave Maynard and Charles Locke Rivera and all of the radio giants in Boston. I am the biggest of all time. And they said, shut up, Matt. Stop talking. Well, I hope you're happy because I just stopped talking. Matty out.
Well, there you go.
He sounded like Minihan there. I'm the best.
All I know is, Jerry, I got ratings every week when we were doing the show, and we're not going against 62-year-old women like Matty was for the last 40 years.
I never thought of Matty as one of those real controversial shows. But to be honest, I haven't listened much. But has he gotten in trouble before in the last 40 years?
So I had him on the old podcast. I had him on Enough About Me, and he said he had never been suspended ever. Obviously I'm going to defend him for saying it. I have no issue with him saying it. Mm-hmm. Anybody who says they have an issue with him saying what he said is a phony. You can always change the channel. Nobody's putting a gun to your head. He's also, by the way, 71 years old. And this is how 71-year-olds are normally going to react to stories like this. They don't quite understand. Is it a big deal? Do I really like him? Do I really care what Demi? Of course not. I don't care what your gender, your pronouns, any of that. Go with God, do whatever. But, if you want Matt Siegel, if you're going to pay him a lot of money to go on the air and say stuff like that, well, you got to have his back. But now they don't. And the question for me is, will he be on the air tomorrow? Does he get suspended? Because I don't think that's a real walk-off. I think he's going to be like, oh, Jesus, I might as well just do the show. What the hell was I thinking? But, maybe not. We were just talking about this morning, Jerry. Maybe he's finally at the point where he says, screw it, I'm walking.
And it could be that he's done 40 years, he's got plenty of money, he's sick of it, and he's going to make a dramatic exit. And I would respect that, because I can picture this, as I just said, Kirk, we went through it many times with the pre-Ds lurking in the hallway and giving that look. And can you just talk about something else? And you just get tired of it. It wears you out, especially when you're doing really well. And you're saying, how about you come in here and tell us how great we are for a change, instead of coming in here and saying how offensive this is, or how we should move on to something less interesting, like whatever, the Celtics or the Red Sox. That was our life on a daily basis. And Matty's not used to it. This is probably new to him, where they're saying, this is really uncomfortable. We got some phone calls. Could you just move on? I know that reaction. We've had it. You snap. You say, Jesus, could you leave me alone and let me do my show? And he's not used to it, because usually they pat him on the back and say, you're doing great. And usually he doesn't offend anybody.
Right.
So the question is, if he comes back tomorrow, does he have to apologize?
Oh, absolutely. Are you really asking? Are you asking that question seriously?
Well, I think that makes it less likely that he comes back. If they say you got to apologize, then he's less likely to come back. And the other question is, was he going to quit soon anyway? Because this would be a good way to go out.
But he is. But and I like Matty. I know you've known him a long time. We had to work. He doesn't have to work. He does. He'll tell you that, as he's told me and he's told you.
He bragged to me. I was complaining about waking up at 4 a.m. He said he wakes up at 5:30, and I go, how the hell do you do that? He goes, I get up, I drive to the studio, I walk in 6:10, the music's playing, I sit down, I have no idea what we're talking about. I don't even know what song's playing. I do that every day. When it's over, I go tee it up. He played golf every day.
I was texting this morning.
It's not a lot of work. He would admit that and take pride in that. So, if he goes back to work, it's not because, he's been working so hard it's just wearing him out. He's got a little formula going.
Yeah, but what is that? Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No, Kirk, I
texted with him this morning. He was playing golf already. He was done. I think he's down in Florida full time. I think he's done at 9:56 when they play their last couple of songs, and then he rolls out. He's on the golf course at 10:05. I don't know. I just find this so obviously it's familiar for us, but I also think, like, I hate to say it, but you guys both know this, in 2021, if you're Matt Siegel, you're either going to come back and apologize or you're out. You're not going to be able to stand what you believe, what you think is true. You're not going to fight the good fight. All that stuff is gone. If you want to keep your job, if you have any opinions at all, if you're not like a Rich Keefe or Michael Felger, if you don't, if you got a brain in your head and a thought in your head, and it's against what the norm is, and you're on a radio station that's not a traditional conservative radio station, you're dead. You're either going to just put those thoughts in your fucking pocket, or you're gone. The middle ground is completely eliminated now. It doesn't even exist.
Right, and that's why it's dying. That's something we talk about all the time. Of course. You can hear at our old station, you can hear the fear in the voices of the hosts, some of whom are our old friends, because they know any second now if the subject is, and there's a lot of really kind of dicey subjects through the pandemic and the election and January 6th and the Antifa and all the BLM things. If you're talking about the news of the day, you're doing it while walking on eggshells, wondering at what point the program director walks in and says, please, the Celtics have a game tonight, please. That was our life. That was apparently Matty's life today.
I guess.
He went to that third rail, which is all transgender issues are off limits. They're verboten for talk show hosts at most commercial radio stations. Now, you can't do it because the mob will come down hard on you, and there'll be just as we learned, there's no escaping.
Well, ratings don't matter. Like they don't matter anymore. They should, but they don't. We've told this story a lot where, Tom, where Gerry and I would be sitting in our office after the show, and Joey Zarbano, that moron, who's now, I think, selling casino chips somewhere, he'd stroll in and say, you guys did a 16 last week. What did Dale Arnold do? Oh, he did a 4.6. But, you guys should try and do this. Dale did this and it worked pretty well.
Oh,
and would say, why don't you tell Dale, I would say, or Gerry would say, why don't you get out of the office, go tell Dale to do what we did, and then you can come back to us. It was, why don't you, Dale did a really good segment. They had Joe Kerrigan on last week, and they were talking about how to throw a curveball. And, why don't you do this or do that? And they were, I know what he was trying to do intellectually. He didn't want us to talk about the stuff that we talked about because of Murchison.
Well, they literally sat Kirk and I down, a vice president, another snake, sat us down in a meeting, and we couldn't believe it. Said, we don't care about ratings. We just want to stay out of trouble. I was, 20 years in, I'm looking around and going, did I just hear what I thought I heard? Yes, we do not care about ratings anymore. You never came back on air after that. We were done. And they said, we want to stay out of trouble. And I thought they were just trying to, scare us. They were serious.
Yeah, but aren't there alpha dog salespeople who want those ratings, who look at those ratings and say, holy Jesus, I can sell the shit out of this show. For big radio sells, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, but what happens with the salespeople, Tom, in that situation was they were so beat down by Murchison. And again, we don't need to revisit this whole thing. Obviously, Gerry talks to Murchison, now they're friends. I don't want to get in the way of their relationship. They hang out, they have dinner 3 nights a week.
I saw that agreement with them, yeah.
but Gerry knows salespeople have no real guts. So when Murchison started costing him money, they bailed. And not only the thing that Gerry laid out with Tim Murphy, who was obviously a friend of Gerry's as well, and I warned him for years not to trust him.
Who's Tim Murphy? I'm sorry.
What's that?
Who's Tim Murphy?
He was like a VP, and he was the biggest snake in the whole company, which is saying something. And Kirk loved him. He was Kirk guy. And I said, Kirk, he's lying to you. And Kirk said, no, not Tim. He wouldn't lie to me. And he was lying. He literally sat us down and said, we don't care about ratings. We're done with this, with what you guys do, and we want to talk sports. And
well, I was going to say, Gerry, was that at the one where you were in Florida, sunning your nuts and sitting on the porch during during our Day of Atonement. Whatever the hell it was called, the sensitivity training. Yes. Is that's when they brought that idiot in, that shithead from New York, who said the same thing, Tom. At that point, when I say we were riding high ratings wise, we were just killing it. And he said, I would rather finish in 6th or 7th, Gerry was listening, and get in no trouble than finish in 1st and get in any trouble. And I remember sitting there in that meeting thinking, well, I'm not gone today, but there's an expiration date, and it's really, really soon. Right. So, I think for Matty, the other thing, Gerry and Tom, is like, if this becomes sort of a semi-story, he's the biggest radio figure I think maybe ever in Boston. He's not wrong about that. Quitting because of this thing. Well, if he tries to come back at all, do that, not just Murchison now, the other crowd, do they just start leveling Kiss 108 to the point where he has to go? I don't know. I have no idea. I'm guessing a lot of his advertising is national. We know how that
but here's the thing, Kirk. Somebody complained. Well, maybe this program director is just such a lightweight that he got nervous.
That's true. 2 tweets or something.
Yeah, I'm going to guess somebody complained about what Matty was saying, or maybe he said it before, because you know how explosive, how toxic the whole issue is.
Is it somebody outside, or is it a weasel inside who wants to get into it?
Could be either one.
Yeah, but if it's someone outside, if it's someone at the Boston Globe, then it's an issue. I'm curious. I just checked. The Globe and the Herald don't have a word. The biggest radio star in the history of Boston walks off the job at what time? 2.5 hours, 3 hours ago. Not a word on either newspaper website yet. But if it's about transgender issues, the Globe is not going to take the side of Matty Siegel, regardless of
an old privileged rich white guy.
Right, white guy. So they're going to come after him and try to look at the last 40 years and see what else he did and what else he said. But it'll be a curious wait. I'll be curious to see how they handle it, how they handle the end of an era, because it ended, with this, him mocking this transgender binary issue.
The only rich white guy who gets a break at the Globe is John Henry. And I mean, to be fair, Linda runs the paper. And also to be fair, when she met John Henry, she had no idea who he was. He was at the supermarket, and she was like hitting on him. My sources say hardcore. You want no part of it. But she just fucking fell in love with the guy. Like,
you know what? It wasn't the supermarket. She thought he was the manager of the produce department. She really did. She was confused, but it didn't matter. Love is love, and heart,
sensing sarcasm.
Heart wants what the heart wants, and those two kids been inseparable ever since.
Hold on. Do you guys mind do you mind if I record the video? I didn't try to get a screenshot and I can't. Do you mind?
Record the video?
Yeah.
What?
Record this Zoom video?
I don't care.
Really, okay. Yeah, that really bothers me.
No, I don't. I just don't know anything about. So let me ask you this. Mm-hmm. So obviously, if you're Kiss 108 right now, you're calling up the Globe, hat in hand, and saying, "Please, we'll give you whatever. We'll give you exclusive quotes from Matty and from all of us."
Won't matter. I mean, again, he's no white. Like they're gonna. I mean, they'll be easier on him than they were on me or Gerry. That's for sure. Because I don't know Matt's history with the Globe. I'm guessing it's limited. He might even be friends with John Henry and Linda Bizzuti, honestly. Who knows, fundraisers or whatever. But I mean, they'll never be on the side of, which again is just a reasonable side to say, and I actually think it's, hey, you can even go this way. This is a teachable moment. This is a 71-year-old guy. He doesn't understand everything at this point. He was articulating what a lot of 71-year-old people in the world think today. They don't know what's going on. It's not even a shaming thing or a judging you.
I dare you. Just click on the story right now on the Demi Lovato story and read it. And I dare you to read it and it's not stumbling.
Oh, you know what? It just occurred to me.
The singer revealed they are happy to share the very personal moment of their podcast on their podcast. She went on to say, Demi went on to say, changing their identification best represents the fluidity they feel in their gender.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't friggin' work. It doesn't work to have a plural gender for one person. As much as you respect or support her, you have to say, I can't even read this. I know
but I think even what he said though, Gerry, was like, he was basically like, you know what? I don't like, that's great that they feel that way. I don't really care one way or another. Where you get in trouble and we have in the past, is because we did this with the transgender issue, which is, you and I, if somebody wants to be, in my opinion, a proper age, if gone through the therapy, feel a certain way, there's real mental illness. If they want to have this surgery, great, fantastic. I hope you feel better. But you can't even have that conversation. That part of it is gone. It has to be, if you're 71 years old and you mess up the pronouns of Demi Lovato, you have to be, you're dead. They want you dead. They want you burned at the stake. And there's, for him, I'll be curious. I don't know him well enough to know if he has the backbone to say, fuck off, goodbye, for real. If he comes back tomorrow, though, if he's on the air tomorrow, which I doubt, But if he's on the air tomorrow, that means his hat is damaged.
I don't think I think he's a kind of a practical guy. I don't think he's a real ideologue. We know that he's not real political. So maybe he just thinks it's practical. I'll come back and make.
He's also not 41.
But he might be done anyway. You're right. He's in Florida. He's got other things he wants to do. Maybe he's done anyway. And again, that's a hell of a way to go out, because you know what? The general public is going to be on your side, Matty. They're not going to say, how dare you mock someone who calls herself they. I mean, that's what he does. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to do what other people do.
And it's very possible, Gerry, that he was actually criticizing her for hijacking the movement for her own brand, being insincere. Last month she was bitching about a frozen yogurt place, selling diet food because it triggered her. So she's a bit wacky anyway. She's capable of anything. But
they're capable of anything, Tom.
Yeah, that's right. But
they are.
So what if he bills huge in Massachusetts? What if he's making them a bleep load of money, a shitload of money for his will that mean anything? That's bottom line. iHeart likes that. Of course, iHeart's probably working with Demi Lovato and a shitload of millennials as well.
All that matters is if it gains momentum. If he apologizes and it goes away, which could happen, it all depends. I mean, for us, we sort of had the perfect storm. We had the right maniac at the right time with the right people who were willing to capitulate. Everything fell into place for Murchison. If Matt Siegel tomorrow comes in, falls on the sword, and then just kind of plays music for the next 2 or 3 years, maybe, there's a chance it goes away. But if he goes on the air and issues even a semi-half-hearted apology, then I think he's in trouble.
And I think the question for the station is there a plan B? That was my question after you were gone, after you quit on me, bailed on me, and I was there alone. I said, let me guess, you got a plan B in mind. And I knew they did. And it, was turned out that Greg Hill and his crew, they were going to sell his station, lose $20 million and slide him over to our spot. But does Kiss 108 have a plan? Is Billy Costa or whoever the next guy?
Well, they should.
When a guy's 71, you generally have a plan B. And if they feel good about the plan B, they will be able to, say goodbye to Matty. They'll kiss and make up to the point where they can have a farewell Matty day and all that. And, Boston will have a day. We'll call it Matty's. In fact, they just did, I believe, on his 40th anniversary.
No, they won't. They won't now. No way.
Oh, but yeah, that's true. But they already
way.
There will be people, especially if he, kind of explains himself. I don't know if he apologizes, but says, just whatever. It was a bad day.
You think this mayor in Boston is going to do that for Matt Siegel?
Probably not. And again, the mayor just did it.
Chance.
I think he just had his 40th anniversary. Well, I think they just did it.
Yeah, probably.
So the psycho activist crowd, what's better for them? To have him emasculated and on the air, or to have his scalp?
No, they want kills. They want
to brag and say, we took down Matty Siegel. And they probably will. I mean, that's just another pelt on their wall, and they got a few, man.
They'll keep going. Yeah.
Incredible. Well, fellas, if you guys want to keep talking, this is all gold for me, but I know you're doing stuff, so I will let you go.
Well, real quick, Gerry, let's go around the AL East here. I'm surprised looking at this right now. This is surprising.
Did you see that Celtics game last night? Talk about electric. There was 17 people in the stands. Marv Albert was on play-by-play falling asleep.
Did you watch it or no?
I put it on because people were tweeting about how amazingly dead it was. Obviously, we know, Governor Baker won't allow them to have a full house, and it sounded like it was empty. And it sounded like a preseason, not even a preseason game. It sounded like a practice. It was awful. And you had all these stars: Jason Tatum, Bradley Beal, Russell Westbrook, and no energy. It was embarrassing. We could do an hour on that.
Is Russell Westbrook really on the Wizards?
He is on the Wizards. He's
I didn't know 4. That. I thought he was on the Thunder. Really?
He just finished with
a lot of talent in the NBA moving around, which is brings me to my next question. Supposedly, there are whispers that certain producer labor may be making a move as well. We know Steve's taken off. You guys want to have the negotiations right here?
Yeah, I'll announce it here. Starting June 28th on the Kirk Minihane show, Ken Laird and Chris Curtis will be producing the show, which I'm excited about. Unfortunately for Curtis, there's a couple of girls who work in the company downstairs who I don't think are legal age, so we'll have to to keep an eye on that one, right, Jerry?
Well, are they chubby chasers? Because I heard Curtis is,
Well, they're interns. I think that'll help.
Putting the pounds back on now. We've already had our negotiations. My guy, Dave Cullinan's perfectly, he's allowed to go chase his dream, which is to work for Barstool. It's not just Kirk. It's the Barstool family.
Well, I don't have anything to confirm on my end yet.
He dreams about being part of the Barstool family.
Right.
That's his dream. And it would be like, like I said, keeping me from whatever. I don't know what my dream job would be. Combing Tucker's hair before the show.
I heard you say you'd play center field for the Red Sox.
Well, that was a cliche. Yeah, when I was a kid. Play safety for the Patriots. What do you want me to say? Your dream was to play guard for the Celtics, correct?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Right now, I'd say my dream right now is I would like to be like somewhere in like the 40s or 50s in the world ranking in golf. Like no real pressure. You're not a star. You get to play the courses every week.
I got a solution for you here, Kirky.
What's that?
Have you heard of Haley Davidson? Haley Davidson was a competitive male golfer, college golfer. He's now a female golfer, and he just won a tournament last week. The first transgendered female to win a women's tournament, and he's now hoping to be eligible for the LPGA tournament. He qualifies under the rules because he transitioned like whatever it was 2 years ago. They have a gender policy, and I think he qualifies. He's 28. He works for NBC, and he's hoping to become the first transgender woman on the LPGA tour. And I played with you. You're pretty good. It's not too late. You could do this.
We haven't played in a long time.
Who's better at golf?
You lost it?
Of you two.
Who's better? Oh, me.
Kirk is better.
Yeah, Jerry, but Jerry's not bad. I'll tell you, Jerry's pretty good.
Can Jerry drive farther?
It is age.
Kirk is. I can drive it farther than Kirk. That's
true.
It, though. But
that is true.
He doesn't hit it far. But other than, I used to think Felger was the best media person because he was a good golfer. But I think Kirk might be better. He definitely doesn't get in any trouble at all. Straight down the middle. He plays like a good LPGA player.
Yeah,
100 yards down the middle, great, really good around the greens. You could do this, Minihan. You should pursue your goal.
Why don't you, let's just, for argument's sake, let's say that Callahan comes to my show, just for argument's sake. Mm-hmm. Why don't you just have Shattuck produce your show and come on every day? He can do that.
Are you kidding me? Shattuck is like a multimedia star. He's substacking and he's podcasting with his wife, and he's doing radio.
Nobody's listening to that.
He's doing radio in Hartford.
Yeah, but no one's listening to that either.
They're listening to this episode, at least.
Well, that's true.
Like a big radio star in Hartford.
Is that right?
Do you give the traffic and stuff?
Yes,
Hartford?
I do. There's a lot of mechanics. We throw to traffic and finance minute, all sorts. It's old time radio there.
I'm jealous. I was saying a couple weeks ago. So Jerry knows I just signed. Well, I don't know if he knows or not. I think we talked about. I signed my last contract, and I said, and Jerry believes me, I'm retiring at the end of this contract. I think you believe that, right?
I don't believe that.
And how much was that for, Kirk?
It was a good deal. I was pretty happy with the contract.
470. 470.
What's that?
470?
Hmm? I don't know. Who's to say? It wasn't Gerry Callahan money, I'll say that. But I wouldn't mind. I said I wouldn't mind going back to old radio for a year or two when it was all done. Do you want me to do that, Jerry? You want to come back? Well, if we find a station right now in 2024, fall of 2024, and I say we do the Kirk and Callahan show again for a year or two, and then we call it a day. Are you in?
Are we going to do it like we talked about from Maine?
Yes. Are you in?
From somewhere between our summer homes.
Yeah, you're in.
Yeah, I hear there's an opening at Kiss 108. You think we'd be a good fit?
I can see you doing that, Jerry. Here's the weekend.
The sad thing is, and Shattuck, you don't even realize this yet, but it's kind of permeated through the industry where ratings don't really matter to anybody anymore.
Yeah. Don't matter at all.
Their first priority is keep us out of trouble. That's the most important thing. I mean, that's why podcasts are doing so well, because they don't have that rule, that philosophy, and satellite probably. Well, I don't know how well satellite's doing, but traditional radio, terrestrial radio, everybody is trying to stay out of trouble, including obviously Kiss 108. That's an issue everywhere.
That's interesting. So I wonder, it used to be that the Arbitron guy would come up and then tell all the sellers how to sell the crappy day parts, and tell them that, well, your average quarter hour is this, but over the 3 hours, they'd sell Cume if you needed to, or they'd sell quarter hour, whatever. They'd give you away. I wonder if that is even a thing anymore. If anybody cares, if they're not selling on ratings.
All that time, all those meetings are now spent on sensitivity trading and critical race theory and transgender training, the videos and all that stuff. That they're doing with little league coaches and that do that at radio stations all day, every day now.
We see this. We see this everywhere. There are companies now in media who are willing to trade profit for sort of winning the day and getting the applause on Twitter. And EEI is a classic example, even though the merchant cost them all that money. I mean, I don't listen to it much, but if you put it on, they're literally advertising, sub shops and Revere on these shows. They're making no money. They're getting no ratings, but they struck a deal with the Globe. They struck a deal with it, and they are now staying out of trouble. Like this story right here today. If I'm a radio fan, which I am, I want to hear Glenn Ordway, who is, I don't know, 15 years older than Matty Siegel, but still contemporaries, I suppose. Glenn's what, 86 now?
Yeah, but he doesn't sound it. He sounds, younger.
Right. He sounds about 76. But I want to hear Glenn talk about Matty today. That's a reasonable ask as a radio fan. But he'll say it in a way that, looks like Matty got in trouble. He won't say what it's about, really. He won't get into it. And it's not really his fault. He just doesn't want to. He wants to collect a check twice a month and go home. And I don't blame him for that. Not everyone is built the way that I'm built or Gerry or other people, which is that, we could have kept our mouths shut. We were asked to. We were asked to sign something. Gerry, to his credit, signed it. But what?
Only one of us signed something, and it wasn't me. But don't start.
Anyway, but the point is, we couldn't do that. Other people can. And if you can do that and you want to go in and talk about sports or play music, go do it. But if you're Matty and you've got that stuff creeping around your head, it's hard to keep that in there and do a show every day for 4 hours.
Right. You know it works. There's a topic, a subject that you can do that will work, that will get calls, that will get energy, and you can't do it. You're not allowed to do it. And by the way, the option is, the thing they're insisting on is really boring, whether it's, the Red Sox bullpen. They're insisting you choose a boring topic rather than a good one. And that is just frustrating to the point where someone like, Minihan can't handle it. Some of us are professional and we would say, okay, we got a job to do. Others will storm out of the studio like Minihan or Matty.
Right. Look at this. I'm seeing on Twitter. Matty's out. You replacing him? Look at this name, Scott Mutrin. I can't believe that. What? That is. I'm surprised it's that bad.
He's a good man. All right, guys. I have really spent a lot of time.
I'm looking at the Globe does not have a word on their website, and I don't think I'm looking at the Herald right now. Not a word. It's amazing. They're just
I think it'll be a national story, but in any time.
Nothing. Harold's got nothing.
Guys, thank you. Kirk Minihane, thanks so much. Gerry, thank you guys very much. I appreciate it. You were very generous as usual with your time. Take care, fellas.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
sounds good.
See you, Kirky.
See you guys.
So that is that. Nice to hear the guys talk together. Nice to have them on and hear them go back and forth. They really, they are really a pleasure to have on. And it's interesting. They're much easier to talk to than you would think. Because they're both of them have a presence and a lot to say. But as far as the issue goes, by the way, I'm going to try to do that, have those guys on regularly.
Okay.
We'll see if they'll do it. Maybe they will. But as far as Matt Siegel goes, and I'm writing about this in our Substack, my Substack today, even if he comes back, if he's back tomorrow morning, so if let's say this people listen to this Thursday morning, if he's back live while you're listening to this, it's still over. It's over. You don't walk off the air. When you start walking off the air, first of all, I'm sure they're sick of paying him anyway.
Right.
But when you walk off the air, then a whole new wing of thought is opened, and that's about the world without Matt Siegel.
Well, right.
And
like Gerry
how much
was
of this,
saying,
how many of these receipts can we keep, sales receipts, without this guy?
Well, and that's like what Gerry was saying too. Like, what's the station's plan B? So the minute he walked off, the radio station has to be thinking, what's our plan B? That show, I'm sure, makes them bundles of money. And they have, and, Gerry said he's 71. They have to have kind of been thinking about it anyway, right? What do we do when Matty goes off the air? How do we keep this going? And, I don't know if you have that kind of income for that show without him on it. Certainly, I would think Billy Costa would be your next go-to option that you would be thinking about. But I don't know. I don't know if Matty in the Morning without Matty is still as big a thing as it was. And now I feel like, you know how we talk about how like Gen X is the most anti-woke generation, kind of?
Mm-hmm.
But I think if Matty's really gone off the air, I think you're starting to drag the millennials into it a little bit now, too. Like, you've already kind of got that with the J.K. Rowling stuff, where a lot of millennials are kind of like, I'm not with you. Like, you can't go after J.K. Rowling. Like, I don't care. I'm over your stuff if you're going to try and cancel Harry Potter, you know? But also, Matty in the Morning is big for millennials, too. I mean, I know it probably skews a little bit older, but everybody who's my age grew up with that show on all around us all the time. So and it's very mainstream. It's very innocuous. This isn't some like right-wing shock jock radio. This isn't even like Howard Stern shock jock radio. You know, like
no, I mean, it's like nowhere near. It's a polar opposite.
This is like vanilla, easygoing morning talk. Some common sense.
You don't get in trouble
stuff.
on this show.
Yeah, this is fine. And you know, for what it's worth, he mentions Trump in his rant too, saying that early on that his initial problems with the station started because they didn't want him to say anything bad about Trump anymore. They were worried they were losing people. You know, let the guy say what he wants. He's been doing it long enough that I think he's got his finger on the pulse of where he wants to be. You know, right. I don't care. Let him criticize Trump. Let him criticize Demi Lovato. You know, and this is why people are going into podcasts, because they're sick of people telling them, you know, how to run their own shows and what they're allowed to say and not allowed to say, and they want to do it on their own. This is the same movement that's driving big name op-ed writers to go to Substack. This is the same trend that's driving. And you'll see on the podcast that I'm coming out with in a couple weeks, we have an episode where we're talking about copyright and music and how artists have more power now. This is what's driving people like Taylor Swift to kind of say to the record labels, you didn't make me, I made you. And to radio stations, you know, there's no radio station without me on it. And I think that's kind of what you have Matty in the Morning saying right now is, you know, I made this morning show exist by being me. And if you're going to tell me I can't be me anymore, I'm not going to just show up and be a trained monkey now. And
or is he?
And he might show up and be a trained monkey. And Kirk said this in your interview with him, you know, like maybe he'll show up and just kind of play music and be bland for the next couple of years and try not to piss anyone off. But also, I don't know if it's clear. The activist people might not let that happen now. His managers might have talked to him this morning and said, you know, you're too hasty. Don't go crazy. They might have tried to save the ad revenues. But this might just be starting. Because the activists might have gotten a taste and said, we can get rid of this guy. There's a lot. I posted about this on Twitter. There's a lot of people in my mentions going, woohoo, this is great. Let's get more. Radio is so much better now. First of all, I don't know what they're talking about, how radio is better, because there's nothing on it anymore. You know, there's going to be no shows on when these people are left. I don't know what radio shows aren't cancelable. I guess we'll have Demi Lovato's show. So
right.
Good luck. That's all that you're going to be able to listen to is 4-dimensional with Demi Lovato.
You're right. And there are more factors at play. So his managers, you're right, are saying, listen, Matt, let's have essentially his managers are the hostage negotiator or the guy trying to stop the guy from jumping, at least until they secure his money. You know, So what they want to do, they don't want to make it look like a whacking, because Matty's had loyal advertisers local for 40 years. Matty goes, golfing with these people, probably the big Herb Chambers kind of people, the big auto dealership owners, the big construction magnates. He hangs in those circles. These people have been together forever. They let each other use each other's houses, things like that. So there are considerations. So they can't just axe him, and that would get the sales department. I'm sure every sales department seller in that station panicked and called the general sales manager or director of sales and said, oh my God, I got, Bill from whatever golf course calling me here. Tell me everything's going to be all right. Please tell me. And then the sales guy calls a program director and says, talk to Matty, talk him down, make sure everything's okay, at least for now. And that's just locally, because you want to make sure you don't leave any cash, hemorrhage cash if this guy gets whacked. But nationally, this is iHeart. iHeart is a concert and venue and event company,
right?
And that it is more Demi Lovato than it is Matt Siegel,
right? I mean, to us, this was like huge. Like, oh my goodness, Matty in the Morning can be hit by this stuff, because that's like such a huge Boston thing. But, nationally, iHeart doesn't care, because if it's going to hurt them more with Demi Lovato fans throughout the whole country than it is with, the Boston radio people that are still listening to Matty in the Morning, then that's going to be the calculus for them.
Right.
They don't care about the Boston radio market quite as much as they care about, selling out Demi Lovato concerts. That said, I think maybe their podcast is on Odyssey. So I don't know.
Well, that doesn't matter. I mean, she as a musician.
As a musician, yeah, she's everywhere. She's on all these
she's
places.
Adjacent to all the other musicians, and I
right.
It's still
and
a big deal.
There's a lot of people are gleeful about this. I mean, I was initially, before all this happened, and I was, reading about the Demi Lovato story, because that was the bigger story before this happened with Matty in the Morning. The headlines were all supportive, and I was seeing, only a few little blips where people were saying, oh, Matty in the Morning is being so transphobic on his show right now, or whatever. So, the CNN headline is, singer Demi Lovato has revealed they are non-binary and are changing their pronouns, telling fans they are proud to make the change after a lot of self-reflective work. So this was like universally met with acclaim, their new podcast, their new pronouns. And I mean, I feel like we're in a little bit of a 2 + 2 = 5 world, where we're all just acting like using this they thing is totally normal. But, I mean, I'm reassured that Matty in the Morning thinks this is weird too, that this maybe isn't the Demi Lovato they thing isn't quite as mainstream as everybody in the media is acting like it is. But we'll see what happens. I don't know.
I mean, it's possible. What is first of all, and I was going to ask Kirk this, I should have. If he comes back, he's got to come back with an apology. Mm-hmm. There's no way he doesn't. So he probably right now does not, if he's being intellectually honest, know what he's apologizing for.
No.
Because she's saying she's now a they, and any normal sane human being would say, what the hell is that? Because that is weird. I understand there's a new construct now, based on all sorts of non-science, that it is proclaiming or is claiming that is true. Mm-hmm. It actually claim it's scientifically true. You would have to suspend your logical thinking regimen to say that is true. It's crazy. It could be something you're into. I'm a hobbyist. I use Pig Latin. I use different pronouns. That's my thing I do. Okay, you can do whatever you want. That's fine. But to force it on people and say, no. Not only is it true for me, something I like to do, but you better like to do it too.
Yes, you have to use Pig Latin also.
So, like, what is he supposed to apologize for? I'm sorry if I offended anybody. I understand that I mean, I don't know how effusive he'd have to make.
Well, and I don't know. He might have. So, like I told you, he talked to Boston.com earlier, too. And, said he thinks he's going to be back with the station after talking to people at the station today. But I don't know if in this interview with Boston.com he did himself any favors, because what he said to them is, I'm against her binary thing. I think she's a troubled woman and a lot of young people are taking her seriously and it bothers me. But of course it's a comedy show, so I did it in the context of jokes.
Wow, he's dead.
Yeah,
wow.
So I don't know how
now he's dead. Have you had any doubt?
So that's what he told Boston.com. That's what they printed.
Right.
So
Boston.com, owned by the Boston Globe, owned by John Henry and Linda Pizzuti, the woke Red Sox owners. Yeah, that is a problem right there. Ooh, dang. He really is going out. If he comes back, it'll be a farewell tour. That's it.
Yeah, so, I mean, that to me says he doesn't even know what he did wrong still. The fact that he said that to them and thinks that's okay that the Globe is printing that. Because even in my comments, the reason I saw this article is because the people in my comments were saying, this is not just that he made a joke about the pronouns. He actually is against non-binary identities. Hyperventilate, hyperventilate. And then they were posting this article in there about how bad he is. So, I mean, the station might still think he's coming back as of right now, but 24 hours is a really, really long time when it comes to these type of scandals. I don't know if he has a job to come back to, actually. So, you know, we'll see. If he's going to by tomorrow morning. I don't know.
Right now, iHeart has scrubbed the audio. Obviously, there's a scratchy audio we played.
Yeah, that was my favorite. There was the people who were in the comments like being, oh, why isn't the podcast up yet? I can't wait to hear. As though iHeart is going to leave him quitting live on air in their podcast that they put up, slamming the station management.
Stations have screwed up, certainly, but that would be a big one. Yeah, and so nationally we'll have to see if this catches fire. I don't see how it doesn't catch fire at this point. He's too good a target for too many people right now. And it's win-win. Either he goes back and they've castrated him and he's whipped daily with talking points that the activists demand that he broadcast, including, or the activists go in there and they shake down the station, they fill it with PSAs. When I was with another station, we had to run, our sister station screwed up, and they made my station, because we were the crappier station, run PSAs for them. Or they just want to scalp. They want them to be whacked, and then you'll see. And we're coming after you. Let's say, and that would leave Howie Carr alone as the one big talk giant in Boston, in really New England. And, if
is the Lauren and Wally show still on?
Neither Lauren or Wally are involved in it. Oh. If it is, but Howie, the entire culture of the show is to push back against this. So he is a warrior. He's not a civilian who said something wrong. Howie is in uniform fighting this fight.
Right. So there's no. I mean, I guess your point is there's no like agnostic show on any, like a normie show. Right?
Well, I mean,
like what
I'm saying is there's no more institution.
Right.
After Matty goes, then all you've got is Howie.
Right.
He'd be the institution. As far as the other Coffee Klatch shows and Morning Zoo shows, I mean, those are junk shows. Those are all done, really.
I mean, and then there's sports, I guess. So there's sports shows.
So the sports, that is...
But I think I actually saw somebody post that EEI was like 14th in ratings this quarter.
That's dead. With Kirk Callahan gone, that is over.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the times absolutely are changing. And that's where we are. We had some stuff that we planned on talking about today.
I know.
And I don't really have it at this point, Alice. Joe Biden was an idiot down in Connecticut.
Did he joke that he was going to run over journalists?
Well, that was somewhere else. Yesterday? That was yesterday. He was going to run over journalists. Today, he was in Connecticut telling everybody to get a sense of humor because he said a bad joke and nobody got it. And so he yelled at them, which is very, not surprisingly, Biden. It was a please clap kind of thing. And and we've got some other, here and there.
Yeah, also Fauci told us we don't understand the mask guidelines.
Oh, good. We'll get to that. We'll get to all of that stuff tomorrow. Right now, it's certainly in the world of broadcasting and cancel culture, this stuff with Matt Siegel, Matty in the Morning is the biggest thing going on. And if they are successful in having pressured this guy, and some people say, what do you mean? He got in a fight with his program director and then walked off. He got in a fight with the program director because the program director has been implanted with a woke chip that tells him to run down the hall and scream at the talent if they say something that could be considered hurtful in a world where what's considered hurtful is changing every day and expanding massively every day, which seems to have origins in insanity.
Right. He wasn't canceled. He just quit because he was told that he would be canceled if he didn't do every single thing that they said every day. Oh, okay. That's totally different then. No big deal. Sorry.
Right. He wasn't shot. The PD held a gun to his head. That's it. Both of them I think are fairly jarring. Kirk and Callahan, Gerry talks about listening to WEEI and hearing that's the sports station, hearing the fear in their voices. I don't think a host who's been doing this that long as Matty in the Morning has wants to live with fear. Sometimes you just had enough. You get too old. let us just hope that Matty ended by saying Matty out. Let us hope that we do not hear Howie Carr say Howie out, because then we will all be screwed in a big way. Thanks once again to Kirk Minihane, to Gerry Callahan, to Alice Shattuck for flagging this and finding the audio before anybody else. And you guys, of course, for listening. Thanks so much, you guys who are here for the first time, really, for Gerry and Kirk. Please give us another listen, subscribe, and what's that? Rate, review. What do they smash? What button?
They smash the subscribe button.
Smash the subscribe button.
Or they can write a review on Apple Podcasts. Those are all fabulous things that you can do for us, and we appreciate it so much. Thanks for being here, guys. Those of you who have stuck with us this long, you can find us on Twitter at Burn Barrel Pod. We also have a website, burnbarrelpodcast.com. We're on facebook.com/burnbarrelpodcast. All those good kind of places. We also have an email address if you prefer to write to us that way, burnbarrelpodcast@gmail.com. And we're on YouTube. That's Tom Shattuck's Burn Barrel on YouTube. You can subscribe over there, see the video versions, leave a comment, all that good stuff. Talk to you soon.
C'est la vie.